Listen, it's so great to be able to do this. I'm so excited because it's, obviously the previous ones we've done. I'm going to just do a little bit of chat before we get started. And if a few people probably will join as well. So listen, it's just really an opportunity because of situations and circumstances to take these last four episodes live, which have been great for me to do, mainly due to work and everything that's happening at the moment. So there's a lot of stuff going on, and in order for me to get things cracking, I need to probably take these last few. And there's going to be, we've got next week, and then the week after is going to be 2 in 1 week, and that will be the finish, and that will have taken us up to where we need to go. How are you guys doing? Is everyone good? Everybody good? Everybody good? Everybody good? Okay. Great here, and it's the weekend, so a big plus. Nice. Nice, 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 nice. Well, let's. So I'm going to go ahead and doing awesome. Hey, 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 Shane, how are you? Hey, everybody. It's so good to have you guys all here and everything. Let me go ahead and get started. Let's go ahead and hit this intro. And just so you know, all I really want to say to all of you is welcome back to Joy to the Word, the Death Stranding edition. This is episode 7. This is the 7th of the 10-part series where we're getting so very close to the end. We are now over halfway through as we continue delving into this incredible world of Death Stranding by the character interviews. Now, I've said it before every episode, and I'll say it again. It's a chance for those of you who've played the game and those who haven't to hear some of the backstory and that in-depth information on how some of the characters have come together and how some of these relationships were brought together and forged, as well as the lore and the history behind the Death Stranding, and how some of these characters pretty much came to exist in this amazing world. So please be aware that these interviews could have some spoilers if you haven't played the game, so you have been warned, so tread carefully. All of this as we are leading up to the highly anticipated director's cut, which is released on September 24th, 2021. So mark those calendars if you haven't already. Now, I dare say that many of you, if not all of you, got to see the final director's cut trailer, which dropped a couple of days ago. We can talk about that later. But now in this episode, we're going to be covering the interviews given by some of the preppers, some of whom you will have recognized from their celebrity status within the game. And there are 10 interviews in this episode, and the listed titles in it are Prepper Interview, the Engineer, Terrorists Posing as Fragile Express Couriers, Prepper Interview, the Timefall Farmers, Prepper Interview, the Junk Dealer, Prepper Interview, the Photographer, Prepper Interview, the Mountaineer, Prepper Interview, the Spiritualist, the America of the Past, Prepper Shelters, and finally, Prepper Interview, the Doctor. So we've kind of cleared all of those things up. I'm just going to have a quick look. How's everyone? Hey, 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 hey. Hey, everybody. Yep. We're prepping for the finish. Nice. Of course we are. Awesome. Listen, I'm so glad that you guys could join. I'm very excited. I was saying this beforehand, before getting that introduction out of the way. It's really a chance for me to connect again. It's been quite a while since I've been able to do it. And I'm not used to doing the sort of live chat things in this form. I have done them in the past, Q&As. But it's always a hassle because I'm not really tech savvy and all of that. So a lot of things get a little ski with, the sound might be a little dodgy, the visuals, but for me, it's a bit of the fun, and it's a bit of having the connection, and I look at all the people who do all the streaming and everything. You guys just have it so down. It's incredible. But for me, it's really just to kind of have this little moment. I don't get a chance. Also, I'm so busy. And I just, in the future, maybe I will have a chance to invest in and do things a little bit differently and a little bit better. So at this moment in time, what I'm going to say is that, like I said, I'm doing all of this because I don't, the next 4 episodes after this one, we're on 7, so we've got another 3. Next week will be Higgs's journal. And the following after that, we were going to probably have the 2 episodes in 1 week. like a Monday and a Wednesday. And that will be the end of the 10 episode series that we've been doing. And it's going to be 2 days before the drop of the Death Stranding director's cut. And that was my goal, was to get everything lined up so that we could get all of these out leading up to that. So if you played the game, it's a chance really for you to go back through all of this, have a little listen if you want to, or even in the future, feel how you might want to come back and revisit some of this stuff again. So with that said, I'm so excited because I'm chatting live with you guys, and this is such a great opportunity rather than my pre-recorded ones. And I get a little chatty, so I apologize for that. But listen, let's go ahead and have a little talk about what's happening today. So we're dealing with preppers. And what I'd like to do is, there is an entire list of preppers in the game. I think there's 29. You've got the Cairo artist, the Cairo artist's mother, the collector, the cosplayer, the wandering MC, craftsman, the doctor, the medical device engineer, elder, engineer, Evo Devil biologist, first prepper, the film director, geologist, the junk dealer, Ludens fan, the mountaineer, the mountain guide, the musician, the novelist's son, the paleontologist, Peter Englert, the photographer's mother, the roboticist, spiritualist, the Timefall farmer, environmental scientist, and the veteran porter. There is a list of all of them, but we won't, they're not all listed as interviews within the game. Yes, I'm just saying that Higgs is also a prepper. The little things in life, Jeff, the Ludens fan. Yeah, so there's a list. This might not be all of them, but it is quite a lengthy list, just so you know. But interesting enough, so when I was doing the prep for this particular episode, I came across a few things, and also because there's only 10 interviews listed that I was able to pull from to do this episode with. So this site, shout out to PC Gamer Site, and also shout out to Jordan Oleman, who put this together, and I found it online. If you ever want to go and check it out or revisit any of it, it's www.pcgamer.com/all Death Stranding collector prepper locations. And he states that here you can find every prepper. And he says, quote unquote, I've listed each prepper alongside various Death Stranding cameos in order of appearance, so you won't need to take too many time-consuming detours. So he's been very helpful and very thorough about it. But what he has also done is listed the cameos. Now, like I said before, you know that we have celebrities within the game. And let me just go through those quickly. There's a little bit of a bio for each one, and just who they are and who they play as a prepper. So I'm going to start with the Ludens fan, which is played by Jeff Keighley, who we all pretty much know in the industry. He is a journalist and a media personality in the video games industry, famous for the final hours of making of reports, and most recently as the face of the Game Awards. So shout out to Jeff, who's a really cool guy, does some amazing stuff within this industry. The next one is the musician, played by Daiki Miura, or Daichi, Daichimiura, is a Japanese singer and dancer known for the opening theme of Kamen Rider X-Aid, X-Sight, and Dragon Ball Super Broly's Blizzard. In the game, he gives Sam a harmonica to soothe BB, so you may recognize that. The next one up is the engineer, played by Junji Ito, is a popular manga artist behind iconic works of horror such as Tommie, that's Tomie, not Tommy, Gaio, and Uzumaki itself was a deeply unnerving series about a town full of citizens driven insane by symbolic spirals. The Craftsman, played by Herman Hulst, who we know as head of Sony Interactive Entertainment Studios worldwide, which I believe is the current position. And in the bio, it says that he's the managing director of Guerrilla Games, creators of console-exclusive series Horizon, Zero Dawn, and Killzone. And the engine used for Zero, obviously, was the Decima, which was used by Kojima Productions to create Death Stranding. So that's interesting. The Wandering MC is played by Conan O'Brien. who we know as an American talk show host, comedian, and writer, most famous for his work on The Simpsons. His TV show Conan regularly features up-and-coming video games and related industry personalities. So that's cool. Thomas Sutherland is a prepper played by Edgar Wright. He is an esteemed English director of the hilarious Three Flavors Cornetto trilogy, featuring Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and The World's End. His later work includes the Michael Cera-led film adaptation of Scott Pilgrim vs. the World and Marvel's Ant-Man, and most recently, Baby Driver. The Collector, played by Hirokazu Hamamura, is a former editor of Japanese magazine Famitsu Weekly and the president and CEO of Interbrain and Famitsu Group, who publish video games, magazines, and software like RPG Maker in Japan. The film director, who we know as Jordan Vogt-Roberts, a really cool guy. Jordan is a film and TV director with an excellent beard, but I do believe he recently shaved that beard off. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that that's what happened. And it was an amazing beard. I remember him visiting on set at Death Stranding and seeing him with this incredible beard. You just want to go and grab it. But it's gone now, so no chance of that. Cool guy. Shout out to Jordan. He's responsible for the charming indie flick The Kings of Summer and Kong Skull Island. Has created video games, adverts, currently serves as the director of the upcoming Metal Gear Solid movie, which is currently without a cast. That's all I'm saying. Alex Weatherstone is the next prepper, played by Errolson Hugh. Errolson, this guy is fire. Absolutely fire. He is a fashion designer behind Berlin studio Acronym. He created a number of pieces related to Death Stranding ahead of its launch, including the J1A-GT jacket, which was based on Sam's in-game outfit. Now, if you haven't seen that, it is an incredible jacket. It's really cool. Errolson Hugh, if you check out any of the Acronym stuff, that stuff is so fire. It is so right up my street. And thankfully, fortunately, who got one? Yeah, he did. I love this jacket. You can see it's got the detail, the Bridges logo, the colors, the pockets, everything. It's an awesome jacket with a little logo and stuff on the back. I absolutely love that. I had to pull that out to show you. So shout out to Errolson because his stuff is incredible. I love this dude. The veteran Porter, played by Sam Lake. Sam Lake is a prolific video game writer and founding member of the Finnish studio Remedy Entertainment. Lake contributed his skills in script writing and design to Max Payne, Alan Wake, Quantum Break, and Control. Very interesting. Philip North is played by Tommie Wirkola. Is a Norwegian director famous for the horror comedy Dead Snow and 2013's Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters. Currently writing the film adaptation of the Mark Ward's dark comic series Irredeemable with Adam McKay in the director's seat. So I don't know how current some of this stuff, it might be slightly past or whatever, but this is what I did find. And the last one is the novelist's son that I have, played by Manabu Makimi. Is a Japanese novelist and essayist famous for his books The Fantastic Deer Man and Princess Toyotomi works, which have since been adapted for film and TV. So that kind of covers some of those amazing cameos that have appeared in the game. So moving on. So, I mean, how did you guys feel about that? Did you find that interesting? Was it a shock to see any of that? Yeah. So it's very interesting to and I thought it was really cool to have those little snippets of people popping in, that you have a recognizable face, or certainly new through the industry in so many different aspects. So it was great, and it also was educational for me because a lot of people I didn't know about. So it was nice to even just kind of reading that to be to get more familiar with it. Don't mind me. I'm going to have a swig of water, and it is water. It's not alcohol. It's too early for me right now. But some of you, wherever you are in the world, maybe you have got your drinks or your cocktails, coffee, whatever. This was really cool because I got this bad boy. I don't know if you could see. There it is, Tommie, Earl, Jenkins. I had that engraved when I went to the gaming awards, which was really cool, which we did very well at, and was very happy and pleased. Anyway, so let's go ahead and move on. So dealing with preppers. So just for those of you, which I'm sure most people watching this knows all of this, but we're just recapping for certain things and just stuff that I may have found in the process of doing the research for this episode. Preppers are characters who live alone or with families in isolated bunkers across the continental United Cities, whom Sam can make deliveries to. Now, they will appear holographically at their delivery terminals, converse with Sam, and will typically not physically come above ground. If Sam takes too long to deliver or delivers damaged goods to a prepper, he will receive fewer likes from them for delivery. Should Sam make more deliveries to a prepper and become more acquainted with them, they may join the Cairo network and afterwards give him more items. If a prepper is not willing to join the Cairo network, Sam can negotiate with him. Listen, there's always room for negotiation. People that we don't get, there's always room for negotiation. Remember that. And also after a prepper's terminal is connected to the Cairo network, Sam can use the terminal to organize and print items. Also, they provide a room where he can rest. So yeah, that is what they are about. I'm just trying to see some of your comments as well and flitting back and forth. That's lots of stuff on the game of fun. I still got that's running, but couldn't resist watching. Preppers are initially the anti-vaxxers. That's funny. That's funny. Okay. So let's go ahead and hit this first interview. This is the prepper interview from the engineer. This one, the engineer, I did mention earlier by some of the cameos. This one is done by Junji Ito, the Japanese horror mangaka artist and cartoonist. Now, the engineer is a prepper and a delivery recipient of Sam's. The engineer was born in a prepper shelter where he has spent the entirety of his life. The engineer was the first prepper approached by Sam for expanding the Cairo network from Lake Knot City to South Knot City in light of Middle Knot City's destruction. The engineer readily agreed to join the UCA, hoping to see the world he'd been missing. After joining, he provided Sam with a power skeleton as a token of his gratitude. So, this is from the engineer. It was 2 years ago and took place in a personal shelter. And he states, "My horizons ain't exactly broad. That said, I'm not completely cut off from the outside world. I knew what Bridges was and that they were trying to rebuild America. But when you're living down here, it's hard to see how that's got anything to do with you and yourself, am I right? My folks holed up in this shelter after the death Stranding. Had a kid and raised him in their slice of paradise. And together, we lived off whatever Fragile Express was kind enough to bring our way. They told me tales about the good old days, but I've never had much of an imagination. Couldn't see how a country long gone was any concern of me and mine. As far as I figured, if Fragile Express was happy to keep bringing us stuff, we didn't need anybody else. And we certainly didn't need America, whatever that even was. But then one day I was looking at a part for this machine my dad put together. He was an engineer too. And I noticed something. Said made in the USA, right there in tiny print. Got me to thinking that America might not exist anymore, but the stuff Americans built is still around, making our lives a little bit easier even now. You could say the old country lives on in its works, kind of like how my folks live on in me. They died a while back. Anyway, if they were American, I guess that makes me American too. And maybe this shelter a part of it all. Once I realized that, I started pouring my heart into building stuff to help you guys put the country back together. So, the engineer. So he born in a prepper shelter where he has spent his entire life. I can't imagine. Once again, we're talking about a fictional world, but sometimes you feel, how close are we actually to this world? In some ways, but he was born in a shelter, born and raised, where he spent his entire life completely isolated. Completely isolated, and not knowing about the USA, not knowing anything about the world as we had known it. Which in itself is crazy when we think about it. And imagine living where we are now in this time and space, and then having a void out, or being moved to a shelter, and having to raise kids, or it's unfathomable. But in some ways, that Stranding makes you think, is this possible? Is it possible? Listen, the world is crazy, and Mother Nature is having a moment, and has been for quite some time. So I'm gonna let her do her thing, and hopefully she has a little bit of mercy on us all. But it's interesting. But also relying on the Fragile Express for supplies, because there was no one else. They relied on Fragile Express to get everything that they needed, but also not knowing anything else in life, and to be born in a shelter, and to be sheltered, from life. And I know that we have a doctor as a prepper, because you start thinking, well, who delivers the babies? How many doctors exist? How many, how does one really survive in that world as a prepper, living below ground? And I'd say very difficult. It would seem very difficult. But I love the discovery of finding the machine part, and it says made in the USA. I wonder what that part was. I wonder what type of machine it was. What do you guys think? Feels like voluntary solitary confinement. Yeah, not pretty much. When you're isolated, the power of imagination and playfulness is key. Absolutely. I feel like the world of Death Stranding feels much closer than at the time of release, especially after the pandemic and lockdowns. Scary stuff. It is indeed. It is indeed. And it's amazing to think how someone like Hideo could kind of foresee a lot of that stuff, and to have it in this game. It's crazy. And I'm constantly blown away by it. Okay, let's move on. We're going to move to the second interview, and it's entitled Terrorists Posing as Fragile Express Couriers. This is done by the Craftsman. And just so you know, the Craftsman is portrayed by Herman Hulst, who we mentioned earlier is head of Sony Interactive Entertainment Worldwide Studios. The Craftsman is a prepper and delivery recipient of SAMs, and was the third prepper reached out to by Bridges in expanding the Cairo network. The Craftsman was initially suspicious of Bridges, believing that Fragile was responsible for the destruction of Middle Knot City. To test Sam's motives, the Craftsman had him retrieve his old equipment from the ruins. That's interesting. I did not know that. So this is from the Craftsman. It was 1 year ago. It took place in a personal shelter. And he states, the terrorists have been at it again lately. You heard, right? About how they've been sneaking in and out of cities disguised as fragile express couriers. We'll have another disaster on our hands at this rate, but it's not like we can just cut them out. We need Fragile's people to keep on doing what they're doing. We rely on those guys for a lot, though maybe we shouldn't. I hear they're transporting weapons now. Why'd they be so stupid? I can't imagine. Spreading shit around that kills in a world where the dead are ticking BT bombs? Sure. Terrorists are a threat, and mules a royal pain in the ass. But what genius figured escalation was the way to go when we all know where it leads? We need weapons. No, tools that can take down the bad guys without killing them. And we need the hardware in circulation gone yesterday. We can't keep folks from dying in accidents or getting sick. We can't keep them from dying, period. But the deaths we can put off, we ought to. Violence isn't just ugly, it's damn near suicidal in this day and age, which is why I'm looking to make a bunch of less than lethal gear in the hopes that it'll prevent a few idiots from getting themselves and others killed. The Craftsman. Clearly concerned about terrorism, as we all are at this moment in time. And saying that fragile transporting, what were your thoughts on that? The mission was a lot. So many BTs in that area. We're drowning in Timefall. Send help. We're good. It's only the second interview. Okay. Some people just catching in. That's great. So, listen, transporting weapons. I mean, he's feeling that they need to keep fragile people. They need to keep doing what they're doing. But he's hearing that they're transporting weapons, and why, feels that that's a really stupid thing to be doing. In a world where the dead are ticking BT bombs. I don't know. It's, is it a bad thing? I mean, I do kind of understand it, but his whole point is, I think it's the violence that really is his thing, and I do get that. I do get that. If you can look, if we could all, live in a world where violence didn't exist in that form, things would be a lot better. Of course, it would be. But he suggests tools, not weapons, to take the bad guys down. If that was possible, the world would be different. The world would be a very different place. But using tools to take the bad guys down. Now, are we thinking that is a metaphor? Or are we literally talking tools like, picks and shovels and spears and, hammers and all that sort of stuff? Or is it, could it be a metaphor? Using tools to take weapons down? Or are we talking, the type of things, are we calling non-lethal gear, which he's saying that he wants to make? Is that another term for another name for it? I just want to make sure. What do you guys think? Do you think that tools is a literal translation, or do we think it's a metaphor? Or are we talking, what do you think? I think by tools he means the non-lethal guns. Yeah. Bola gun is a tool. So yeah, okay. So there we are. Just hearing your responses. That is that those items that we have within the game that are non-lethal, things that Sam uses and things like that, I suppose, are the types of things he's talking about. And he's saying doing his part as a craftsman is making less than lethal gear. So that is his mission to do. And I just think it's very interesting. It's all of these are. It's thinking about his process and thinking, well, that is me doing my part. I'm going to make non-lethal gear, and maybe we can use that to take the bad guys down without killing them. And I think there's the whole thing with not killing the mules. Within the game, those of you who know, it's always enlightening. I'm always finding out new stuff and interesting stuff. And I'm going to have to go back and play this game. I've said it before. I really am going to have to go back and pay attention to it all. Listen, we're going to go ahead and move on. Craftsman was definitely a pacifist and able crafter. Never really used his custom hematic grenades, though. Otherwise, you got to drag them all to the incinerator. Yeah. Moving on. I love your comments. To the third interview, which is the prepper interview, the Timefall farmers. Now, the Timefall farmer is a prepper and delivery recipient of SAMS. He lives with the environmental scientists. Interested in their research, Amelie advised the two to use it for farming. When their cultivation of wheat goes well, they can provide beer, bread, and pizza using the wheat. So this was the interview from the Timefall farmer. It was 1 year ago, and it takes place at the Timefall farmer's farm. And he states, "Me, I used to be an ecologist. Emily thought highly of me and my wife's research into Timefall's effect on plant life. She was the one who suggested it could be used to boost agricultural production. See, Timefall's radically altered the ecosystem of the entire continent. Obvious, I know. Just as it's obvious, we're powerless to stop it. So we had the idea of trying to use it to our advantage instead. Make the environment better, not worse. Easier said than done, though. Take void-out craters, for example. Local chiral density is generally higher in their vicinity, which correlates with increased timefall. With all that exposure, you'd think they'd turn lush and green again before you know it. Unfortunately, it doesn't quite pan out that way. Nothing grows in any of them. Might be the timefall's done something to the soil, but the truth is, I don't have a clue." Which was one of the reasons why me and the missus were conducting our research. I gotta say, for the record, that it hadn't crossed our minds that timefall could be used to help grow food. That idea was all Amelie. So, credit where it's due. So the Timefall farmer. And the use of timefall to boost agricultural production. How? Now, would that be due to the fact of, because of the aging, the fast aging process? Does that mean using timefall to speed up the growing process, thus creating more supply quicker? That's what my thought is on that. And I think to me it does make sense if they could find a way to use that to boost the agricultural production, because we all know that timefall does increase the aging process. So maturing, if you've got a greenhouse and you're using timefall, or maybe here's an interesting thing. Does timefall work if you capture it like a rain bucket, like in a bucket? And I know that's a little hard because it does destroy everything that it kind of touches. So does that mean if I had a bucket to catch the timefall in, would that rust and disintegrate because of that and age? Or would it just rust and age, but still be able to carry timefall water? And if I use that, in my greenhouse, would that indeed speed up the process of all my my seeds and my garden, my food growth. Would that indeed work, or would it not? Would it just, or does it work like acid and does just burns a fucking hole through everything? You know, what are your thoughts on that? What do you think? Imagine other commercial use of Timefall: distressed dining table and chairs. That's such a smart concept. Fast-paced agriculture. Yeah. Do you think Americans love of demand survive the Death Stranding? Interesting question. Timefall turns into normal water once it touches the surface. Hence, a river is innocuous as normal water. Ah, thank you. Be mindful. Shane says, in World War II, America grew to a superpower by outproducing our allies and the Axis powers, and we adopted this efficiency into American culture, making it a national gene in a sense. Y'all better be educating. Y'all sitting up here writing up essays and stuff and filling us up with all this knowledge. Y'all better be serving it up. Yes, okay. I'm living for all that. I can't wait to go back and read some of that. So great. That's an interesting question. Sam collects Timefall rain in his Monster Energy canister, so I guess it turns into normal water. Yay! So yeah, that's good to know. I mean, I think that all makes sense. Are we in agreement with that? That makes sense, right? Cool. I love it. Moving on to episode interview number 4. Only 6 to go. Interview 4, prepper interview the junk dealer. The junk dealer, who is in the game, played by an American VO actor. You can look him up, Josh Keaton, Keaton, Josh Keaton, who plays the junk dealer. Now, it states here, 5 years prior to meeting Sam, the junk dealer was part of a gang that killed the Cairo artist's parents. Terrorized by the actions of his peers, the junk dealer escaped from the gang, saving the Cairo artist in the process, until they were found by a woman who decided to adopt only the girl, as she resented the junk dealer for being part of the gang. In time, both teenagers suppressed the memories of the event due to the trauma, and the junk dealer moved to a prepper shelter outside of South Knot City. Whoa. That was some information I did not see coming. So I'm doing some cold read stuff here as well on the stuff that I pulled up. So that was interesting. I quite like that. Little bit of information. I got locked in there for a second. But you can read more about him, the junk dealer. Look him up. Played by Josh Keaton. So this is the junk dealer. It was done 6 months ago, and it took place in a personal shelter. And he states, incredible, isn't it? This hourglass. See how the sand flows upwards? It's got chiroparticles in it. That's why it moves like that. And look at the shape of the glass. So elegant, so delicate, just like the girl who made it. Hard to believe it's even of this world, but it was made by human hands, all right. Crazy, isn't it? No wonder everyone in South Knot City knows her work. You can imagine how I felt when she gave it to me. I guess you could say it was a thank you present. She'd asked me to fix something for her, and this is what I got in return. You know, I've done jobs for all kinds over the years, but none of my other customers ever did anything like this for me. Most will just toss you a couple of likes, and that's the end of it. Don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with a like or two. It's just, well, this was different. The moment she gave me this hourglass, I knew I wanted to be with her. Never happened, though. Ain't cut out for love and relationships. Don't have what it takes. Other people kind of scare me, to be honest. Still, even if we can't be together, at least I'll have this hourglass. The hourglass. This dude fell in love with this woman when she gave him an hourglass. Now, listen, love can come in all shapes and forms, but maybe there was something so incredibly magical about this particular hourglass. I mean, look, if someone gave me a Cairo hourglass, I mean, that's kind of cool, because the particles would be going upwards. That's cool. I'm sure I'd fall in love with them over, but hey, these were trying times. And I don't want to diminish his affection or his love to say that it's not valid. It is. Everyone's love is valid. But one of the preppers you can find in the central region of America, and one of the tougher ones to convince. So he was one that you could find in the central region of America, and one of the most the tougher ones to convince to join the UCA. And apparently he built his shelter in a makeshift scrapyard between the film director prepper and the tar lake leading down to South Knot City. Did you guys know that? Okay. That was interesting. But he is one of the tougher ones to convince to join the UCA. And built his shelter in a makeshift scrapyard. Also, the hourglass, the floating upwards of the sand due to the chiral particles, which I think is really cool. It must be quite cool to look at, But that was his payment versus the likes. And as opposed to make it for something completely different, to be able to pay someone with a gift that was made, there's got to be something special within that, I'm sure. So what do you guys think about that? More like the love drunk dealer. He was drunk on the love, man. Drunk on the love. I really couldn't stand him. Such an abrasive attitude. Denny, you're hysterical. That's funny. You can avoid the BTs by going directly east from the junk dealer's location and then follow the tar line. So that's a little information for anybody out there playing the game. He sure is hard to convince, but as you said earlier, there's always room for negotiations. Agreed. He's an a-hole before getting him to join the Cairo network. That's funny. I'll only join up if you get my girl, who I don't even know is still alive, and then I'll whine about how much better it was when I was single making gadgets. What a nag. I love their story, but transporting her was so stressful. That's cool. I love that. This is what's great about doing it live, is hearing the instant reactions back to the interviews. It's really cool. And you guys are crazy, but I love it. Let's go ahead and move on to 5. We're halfway through. This is just checking the time. This is the photographer. There wasn't much information that I had on this one, other than the fact the photographer is played by a Canadian voice actress called Erin Fitzgerald. Erin, E-R-I-N, Fitzgerald. And this interview was done 1 year ago and took place in a personal shelter. And the photographer states, "It wasn't that long ago that we moved to this shelter, the 3 of us. Before that, we used to live in the city until my husband up and said we had to leave. He was so insistent, and I didn't have any choice but to go along with it. I couldn't take care of our daughter by myself. He said he was sick of the city life, and I can't say I don't understand at all. I mean, Timefall may not have been an issue or BTs, but I can see how a safe and comfortable life might become suffocating. Our daughter might be happy and healthy, but we're the exception. Hardly anyone's even having children these days. You don't need a crystal ball to see where the world's headed. My husband says we're bound for extinction. Says nobody's doing anything about it. People would rather stick their heads in the sand and try to wait out the storm. If we don't figure out the death stranding and fix this world of ours," that's all she wrote. My husband says that a lot. That maybe he's just a guy with the camera, but at least he's doing something, and so on. He's out again somewhere investigating something. Recently, he started taking our daughter with him, teaching her to take photos of rocks and murals and the like. I'm glad they're spending time together. And I know it's good for her education, but I still hate it when they go out and leave me here to wait and pray that they come home safe and sound. The photographer. The photographer. So they chose to move from the city to a personal shelter, obviously at the insistence of the husband, because he had enough, it seems. She's saying, we used to live in the city until my husband up and said that we had to leave. He said he was sick of the city life. And, it's hard. I'm a big city person. So, but I do like the calmness. I like being in the big city. LA is kind of cool because it's a big city, but you can find these pockets of calmness. And I love being surrounded by the mountains and all that. It's wonderful. But on the flip side of that, I love London and New York, which are both, former homes of mine as well. And love them for different reasons, because I love the vibe of big cities and the culture and everything that goes along with it. So they chose to move from the city to a personal shelter. So how does the photographer contribute here? What is his purpose? So you chose to leave a safe and comfortable life that you found suffocating, that was free from Timefall and BTs, only to throw yourself in the deep end, right? Or am I missing something? So as the mother, you now have to worry more about safety of your family when they go out, praying that they come home safe and sound. So help me out here. What have we got? Sounds like your average Midwestern American. The Midwest still carries that wild, wild West attitude of pioneering. I have so few experiences with big cities. I live in a city with just 8,000 people. Loved your performance in the game. Oh, thank you. The mother never speaks. It really freaked me out. Fair enough. The photographer was really cute, but the roboticist has my heart. Okay. So you guys have really cracked me up. But, listen, here is the thing. So they've moved from the city because he could no longer basically bear it, sick of the city life. Timefall may not have been an issue or BTs, but I can see how safe and comfortable life might become suffocating. Now, answer me a question. So they moved from the city but aren't we now, did they move to an area where we now live with Timefall and BTs? Or have I missed that? The photographer was really, so if anyone has that answer, shout it out to me, because I'm a little confused by it. But having said that, listen, I hate to break up a family, but if you're choosing to leave because you feel that life is, life was safe and comfortable, but isn't that what life's supposed to be? Aren't we supposed to feel safe and comfortable? And you want to go to a big city where Timefall is and BTs are, says, yeah, they're in a big Timefall area. Right. I think they're scared of void outs. So it was a little interesting and crazy to me at the same time, because I was like, well, why do you want to do that? You've got your family, and he wants to go. He was insistent on making this happen, much to your dismay, from what I gather. So is it one of those male dominating relationships where what I say goes and you have to follow, and I'm taking the daughter with me? So, sink or swim, come or don't come. And now, and I get that he wants to teach the daughter to do photography and all that, and that's great. But now he wants to take her out in a place where it's dangerous, and the mother's now home, having to be concerned about whether they're going to come back home safe and sound. So this is a little weird juxtaposition that I'm kind of seeing here. What are you guys' thoughts on that? Let's see. Shane says, from city life, where they're living in a distribution center city. I think sometimes you need to let the bird leave its nest, or you put social shackles on them in the name of love. But we all need space. Love transcends that. Yes. Maybe as a photographer, he was always chasing adventure and new discoveries, even if it was dangerous. Yes. Sounds like he has bad wanderlust and she's stuck with it. Yeah, and that too. Seems like he just didn't being like being cramped up. Yeah, I guess that is, what it was. But, shouldn't that have been a family decision? Shouldn't that be a group thing? You're gonna this is a major change. I might be digging a little deep in this and taking it a little too seriously, but shouldn't that have been a discussion versus, my insistence on doing it? Yeah, interesting. The photographer. I will have to go back and relive that and probably get even more irate about it. Yeah, absolutely. Forcing your opinions on others is never good. Shane, sounds like he has, but yeah, we did that. Yeah. So interesting. But moving on to interview 6. This is the Mountaineer. And all I know about this one in what I pulled up was that he lives with his wife and his baby son. Now, this character, the Mountaineer, is played by a American voice actor, Travis Willingham. Willingham. Hey, Travis. Travis Willingham is the Mountaineer. It was done 1 year ago and took place in a personal shelter. And he states, people aren't meant to stay cooped up inside or live in one place forever. It's not natural. Exploration's in our DNA. The great outdoors is where we're supposed to be. Our ancestors started out in Africa, right? Well, they didn't just stay there, did they? They wanted to try and find a better life, a better home. That's why humanity spread all across the planet. And as we've traveled, we've evolved. Little by little, we've grown tougher and smarter. Even our immune systems have become stronger. But if we stop moving, stop exploring, that all stops too. We stagnate as a species, maybe even regress. That's why we can't hole up in these cities. There's a whole universe beyond those Cairo clouds that I'd love to explore someday. But if that's not possible, then I want to at least get as close as I can. Climb the biggest mountains. Go as high as I can go and try to see what lies beyond. And I want to do it with the love of my life. The world-class mountaineer who showed me the beauty of this place. My guiding star. Together, there's no peak we can't summit. This guy. Okay. The Mountaineer. What do we got? They really aged Travis Willingham as the Mountaineer. He looks old as hell in the game. Oh, God. First time going there was such a tough trek. Bless the zip lines I put up after. The Mountaineer's baby, born safely thanks to Sam and the doctor's help. I hate that mountain. Shame. Did you do the LO order where you need to drive a truck to the Mountaineer while the clock is ticking? There's some crazy stuff. And I remember a section of this. What doesn't kill you only makes you stronger, on the Mountaineer's tombstone. Yeah, it's interesting. So they discuss the great outdoors. A lot of people love the outdoor. I mean, I'm an outdoors person. I'm not one of those great outdoorsmen. I love the idea of camping / glamping. In my case, there's some really cool places, by the way, in across the country that you can go in these incredible tents with open skies and bathrooms and stuff. But you still feel like you're outside, but you're not. It's a little bit more glam. It's probably a little more upmarket for me. Although I have been seriously camping, like hardcore camping. I've done that once when I was younger, once or twice. That's another story altogether. The Mountaineer. So the great outdoors, the need to explore traveling is important for knowledge. I get that. Traveling is important for knowledge, no matter how little or how far you travel. And traveling educates. Those are the points that I really wanted to make. I agree that if we, when I was younger, living in America, especially when I was younger, living in New York City, because New York was my jam. It was where I was focused, where Broadway was, dancing was, everything to do with the arts was. It was just New York was the city for me, and I love it to this day. I still love New York, but there was a moment where I thought, why would I ever leave New York City? Everything I need and want is here. I don't need anything else. Why would I want to go outside of America? And at that stage, I wasn't. My mind was more focused on what I wanted to do rather than what would be good for me to do in terms of educating myself in life, quote unquote. So the fortunate thing for me in my life is I have been able to travel to amazing places. I have seen so much of the world and still want to see a lot more of the world. Work has been a great asset for me in letting me travel abroad and go and work in some of these amazing countries. And it has educated me in a way that I feel sometimes people who are able to travel miss out on certain things. And, if you're if you like reading or watching documentaries, you can still educate yourself that way. I'm not saying that if you don't travel, you won't be educated that way, but to be there hands-on and understand how a culture really works, how their life turns, how their system works in medicine, how their insurance things work, how just life is completely different outside of America. And there is a world that is out there to explore. And I would suggest everybody, when, the opportunity arises and things, obviously, when we get back to that place where travel becomes, the norm again, like we used to have it, or as we once knew it, please treat yourself, go visit places. But the need to explore and traveling I feel is important for knowledge, like I just said. No matter how little or how far you travel, we can travel within the country and still be educated by things that we see. We only need to look at different areas between north, south, east, and west, and how different things are, and educate ourselves by it. But I love how he says the world-class Mountaineer showed me the beauty of this place, his guiding star, and he's obviously has this love, which is cool to see. I love, most people would find that last statement a little bit corny, and it is, but you understand what he means by that. And I don't think, were they saying that, our ancestors started out in Africa? Did everyone's ancestors start out in Africa? I don't mind it. I'm pretty sure. I know. But did everyone's? That was an interesting thing. And well, they didn't just stay there, did they? No, they did not. No, they brought their asses across the waters and distributed them across the country doing things. So no, they did not. I just thought I had a little bit of a laughter behind all of that because I chuckled to myself. But he's saying, but if we stop moving, we stop exploring, and all that stops, we stagnate as a species, may even regress. And to a degree, I do agree. I think, it is about keeping yourself motivated, keeping yourself moving, not letting yourself become stagnant, not letting yourself be changed by circumstances. I can get into a lot of different things that I feel we all have the ability to take our life into our own hands and make of it what we will. That is our choice. That is our birthright. That is one's own choice. You have a brain, you have a mind, you have the ability, fortunate most of us have that ability to use our senses to do what we need to do. And, and whether you are have come up through unfortunate circumstances, you know, through broken homes, through a broken system. You know, I did. You know, I was adopted at a very, very, very young age and come from a broken home. And in that respect, but I found love with a family that took me, a mother and a father, who raised me to the best of their ability. But I didn't let that stop me from doing what I wanted to do. Somehow, yet, my mind found a way to look at certain circumstances and go, that's not what I want for my life. That's not where I want to be. That's not where I want to go. What I want to do is this. And not knowing where any of that comes from. But I feel like you don't necessarily have to follow a road of self-destruction based on your upbringing. I don't personally believe that. I believe that if you are instilled with knowledge, you know, if you're going to school, we have that ability. I know that at young ages we can be our brains, we can be swayed by, you know, peer pressure and things like that. And some people unfortunately don't have the luxury of breaking free. I do get that in some instances when it comes to gang violence. You know, there are people who are born in an area that is, you know, dominated by gangs and controlled by gangs, that you unfortunately have grown into that and have been dragged into it against your will and have to follow that life because it becomes a life or death situation. I have a friend who explained that situation to me. He got out, but you know, that to me is just, I feel for it, because I feel that no one should ever have to be forced into living a life that they don't want to live. That is, who are you to tell me that I have to follow that life of yours? Who are you to tell me that? You know, I've got, it's my life and you've got yours. You've chosen to do what you want to do with it. Fine. Leave me alone. Let me go and live my life. And I want to make something different of it. That is your right. And I can't bear the thought of anyone having that taken away from them in a way that says, you're going to do what I tell you to do because I say so. No, I'm sorry. That doesn't work like that. No, not in Big Mama's house. It does not. So I'm saying, but get yourselves out there, people. Travel, experience, find all these wonderful things. And don't become stagnant. Don't regress. Don't let yourself be deterred by what's happening. Fight against the odds. Fight against the odds. You've got one life to live. Live it. Don't let anyone tell you what you can and cannot do or what you can and cannot achieve. You also, dreaming is your birthright. You have the ability to dream. And I tell you, dream big. Don't you ever let anyone take that away from you. And dreams have no time limit on them. Remember that. You can keep dreaming. Don't ever let anyone take that away from you. Don't let yourself think that you are halted by the fact that your dream hasn't come true. Your dream will come true if you stay with it. Don't let it be taken away, regardless of what you're going through. I'm on a high horse here now, so I'm going to move on. But yes, remember all of that. Remember everything that I just said to you. Go back and revisit it again. But anyway, so that was the Mountaineer. We're moving on to 7. This is the prepper interview for the Spiritualist. She is. What I've got listed is not a lot of information on her as well, but the Spiritualist is a prepper and delivery recipient of SAM. She's interested in spiritual stuff, which her twin sister called mystical mumbo jumbo, which I thought was funny. This Spiritualist character prepper is voiced by Sarah Cravens, an American VO artist. You can look her up, Sarah Cravens. This was done 1 year ago, and it takes place in a personal shelter, and she states, "No one has been able to explain the Death Stranding, and I doubt that anyone ever will. Certainly not with science. Science is only suitable for observation, measurement, objectivity. You can observe and measure as much as you like, but it will bring you no closer to an understanding. Sometimes you need to expand your mind and open your heart. Seek the souls of the dead. Listen for the waves on the beach." In antiquity, there were no barriers between the realms. People moved freely between the earth, outer space, and the world of the dead. What are myths and legends if not records of these journeys? My research has only confirmed this. The pyramids of Egypt and Mesoamerica, the Nazcan lines, Stonehenge, all gateways built by humans in order to access the beach. Surely you can see that the wisdom of the ancients has never been more relevant. So, the spiritualist is a good, a very good thought on dealing with the heart and mind expansion. So the antiquity, I presume, is equals the past before the Middle Ages. The ancient past before the Middle Ages was what I discovered and came across. Spiritual gateways, things like Stonehenge and others, like, the pyramids, some of these amazing, iconic places, that hold this, are held on sacred ground, could be spiritual gateways to another dimension. So I thought that was that's all very, very interesting. But she's saying to listen for the waves and seek the souls of the dead. Listen for the waves on the beach. Is that like listening to the whispers? Do you know what I mean? And the pyramids of Egypt and Mesoamerica, the Nazcan line, Stonehenge, all gateways built by humans in order to access the beach. Really, really interesting. There's there's a great TV show called The Outlander. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's amazing. I really love this show. And there's this, it's not Stonehenge, but there is this stone, and you can touch it, and it does transport you back to another time. And if you ever get a chance to watch it, it was a little bit of a slow start, but once I got into it, I was into it for the endurance, and I'm still waiting for it to come back. The Outlander, check it out. But it was a similar situation, being able to transport or move through time and go to another dimension. It's interesting because I want to believe that is all possible, because I kind of think, wouldn't that be cool? But what if you can't get back? Is my problem. What if you get there and get stuck in a time that you can't actually get back? So that scares me a little bit. What were your thoughts on that? Let's see. Just haven't figured out all of the details yet. I personally believe the spiritualist and her ideas are the key to unlocking a hidden game in Death Stranding. It involved using the dream catcher and the Quipu to travel to the beach. Interesting. The hardest trek to the chick looking at rocks all day. Just haven't figured out all of that. More Peruvian references as the Nazca lines. Isn't the spiritualist a twin of the cosplayer? It's very possible. And she does have a twin sister. So we did mention that. Stones and acting as portals. I'm still recovering from the Tomorrow War. Did I miss they've been between? So all really, really interesting. I'd love a time machine or a transportal, a portal, as long as I can get back. Moving on, 2 more to go. We are at 8. This one is the America of the Past. This is done by the Elder. Now, this character is portrayed by Armin Shimmerman, also known for Deep Space Nine, the American actor. If you remember him from Deep Space Nine, I think he was the bartender or something like that I remember coming across. Armin Shimmerman, look him up. This is the Elder, who was one of the preppers whom Sam connected to the Cairo network in order to make up for Middle Knot City's destruction. Now, the Elder did not initially choose to be a part of the UCA, but agreed to have a limited contract with Bridges. Okay, so he's making some demands. So this is the Elder. It was 2 years ago, and it took place in a personal shelter. And he states, "Oh boy, you want to hear about America? Well, you asked for it. But if you're looking for some rose-tinted bullshit, you've come to the wrong place. I'm an immigrant, you see. Nothing special about that. Whole country was built by immigrants. Right off the bat, I could see it wasn't quite the land of the free I'd been led to believe. But for a while there, it wasn't so bad. Even bought into the American dream for a minute. I mean, hell, they let a black guy and a woman take a shot at the presidency, you know? Didn't last, though. Somewhere along the line, people became so damned intolerant. All of a sudden, there wasn't any room for other opinions, or other people for that matter. We even elected a guy right before the death stranding that wanted to build a wall along the whole border, stop anyone like me from coming in. Once that talk started, I reckon that was that. How could I expect a goddamn thing from a country that didn't want me? How could I hope to get by in land where the weak and needy got fucked over for profit and peace of mind? So yeah, I figured holding up in a shelter was the way to go. Didn't know how bad it would get. No one did. But I tell you, if it hadn't been for that single decision, I wouldn't be here talking to you right now. Just goes to show that the only person anybody can rely on is his own damn self. UCA? Give me a break. You're just pushing the same old bullshit repackaged for a brave new world. Ah, okay, so this guy is letting you have it. You know, he has been there, he has done it, he's an immigrant, and he has said, no, hell no, and hell to the no. You know, so that kind of got me that, you know, he talks about America, the American dream. What are you guys saying? Kojima dropping those truth bombs, also known as Andrew Ryan. He might die. Elder has seen way too much. He really has. You know, his comparison to the president before the death stranding, putting up border walls. Well, we know where that went and where that sits. The land of the free. You know, look, we all have our thoughts on this, and this can get a little bit more controversial. So we'll stay away from that at the moment. But, you know, I think he hit some really valid points. And it does make you stop and think. You know, considering the world in which we are living at the moment, it does make you stop and think. Land where weak and needy get fucked over for profit. Most everywhere it happens. You know, I don't think this is new. You know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think, to be honest, I don't think anything he said in this didn't hit a truth bone to some degree, you know, and certainly being someone who came to this country and help build the country, and how people somewhere along that it's stating that people became intolerant. You know, listen, I think people have always, there's a certain group of people who've always been intolerant and will cling to that tooth and nail until their dying days. You know, we'll never see the other side or see, you know, that everyone, you know, America is supposed to be that place where everyone has that dream. It is the American dream. It is the land of the free, home of the brave, you know, and it is meant to be that. And I still believe that it can, you know, and still has elements of that. You know, look, we just got off track a little bit. You know, we're driving down the highway. We took the wrong exit. You know, maybe we might have to circle back around a bit. You know, get Siri to do reroute that GPS and get us back on track and get to that destination where we need to be. But you know, listen, we are all dealing with it the best way we can, but I think there were some truths about it all. And it's true. The weekend, you know, people need help. We're in a time where people need help. Our homeless people need help. Our sick people need help. Our unemployed need help. Children need help. And children rely on us. I'm going to touch this just briefly, but children need us. Children, we are there to protect them. They can't do it for themselves at this moment in time. It is up to us to provide the most and the most efficient way of protecting our children in this day and age from a multitude of things. You know what I'm hitting on, and I don't need to go down that road, but they need us. Children are vulnerable. They're not in a place where they haven't hit 18, 15, 16, 17, 18 years old where they are able to look after themselves. It is up to us to save our kids, because they indeed are our future, to coin a phrase. Yes, they are the future. And so we need to look out for them, and we need to be aware that they need protecting, and they need to be protected by others. So I'm going to leave that and move on to number 9. Prepper shelters. What did we think of that? It's human nature to be protective of your values, and an intruder can be a treat in their eyes, hence the aversion. Yes, I'm trying to protect my 2 kids and fighting for my life, it feels like. I hear you, girl, Shane. To be fair, if we cannot help ourselves, how can we be confident that we help our children to be the best examples of us? Correct. Your children are fortunate to have you as their mothers, Shane. Yes, they are. Yes, so you guys get it. You understand. Moving on. Prepper shelters. This is also from the elder, was one of the preppers who Sam connected with in Cairo Network in order to make up for Middle City's destruction, which I mentioned earlier. So sometime after joining the UCA, the elder stopped taking his medication and permitted himself to, with no one to tend to his corpse, he became a BT, albeit one contained within his home and therefore posing no void out threats. So we were fortunate that happened. So this is the elder. It was 2 years ago, took place in a personal shelter. And he states, back before the Stranding, there was all kinds of companies selling all kinds of shelters. Hurricane proof, earthquake proof, disease proof, war proof, terror proof. Probably had a recession proof model for all I know. Anyway, you could picture it all going to hell. They had a shelter for it. And the guys building them, military types, astronautical engineers, amateur enthusiasts, everybody and his uncle was out to make a buck. But if you wanted something that actually lasts, you had yourself 3 solid choices. First, there's your American Survival Shelters unit. They were a global military hardware supplier. Used to build big government bunkers, nuclear shelters, and all that. They started selling to the general consumer right before the Stranding. Damn good timing, huh? Anyway, those babies were the creme de la creme. Next up, you had Millennium Preppers. They made it big right after a string of terror attacks. Started out selling bank vaults and reinforced containers and the like. Wasn't hard for them to break into the shelter game, and they knew how to build them tough. Then there's your domestic guys. World Safety Housing. All about affordability. They were. Cheap and cheerful. Well, as cheerful as anyone could be after the Stranding. Still, they did a lot of good for a lot of folks after things went to shit. So all types of shelters. So they had the American survival shelters, the Millennium Preppers, and the domestics, which was the World Safety Housing that was affordable. So, dealing with that, saying that this was the building these bunkers, and they had them for these shelters for every possible scenario. But you see, here's the thing: it's typical supply and demand, isn't it? It's the consumer situation where, someone realizes that there is a need for something, so they jump on the bandwagon. They think we can make money from this. We're living in a time where people would love to have a shelter because it's going to protect them. So we can do that. Dude's charging X amount for his. We're going to make them affordable, make them cheaper. That will still work. but maybe you might have to, you know, uh, add something to it, or extend it, or do something that might not last as long. It might not be as good for timefall or whatever. Um, so it's that thing where the minute something is needed, people want to make it, but they want to make it better, or they want to put a little twist on it, or change the name and make it a little more flashier. It might be cheaper, but it's flashier and more attractive to the eye, so that when you see it, you want to buy it. Um, and it's that thing of that you've got to do your research. There's so much information and so many various types of, it's like, buying a computer, or buying headphones, or a microphone, or any. There's so many different things, and everything works differently for different ways. So you have to kind of know what it is that's going to serve you and serve your purpose. So that's interesting on how that happens, and I completely get that. That's just the way of the world. That's just how it happens. What have we got? Look at COVID. I can search 30 different types of masks from hundreds of companies. It's all just a mask, but each one different to sell. Yeah, exactly. I adore you. Thank you for everything. I'm currently doing the Stranding novelization on Audible right now, and it's read by Bronson Pinchot. Ah, awesome. Thank you. I'd have done anything to have had you read it. Thank you as well. I do have them sitting back here, and that was a plan. I was going to do the novelizations as part of the series, but I think there's a copyright issue with them, so I'm going to read them and enjoy them. Anyway, so that's interesting. So, there's that whole supply and demand. So I understand how that all came about. But, interesting. Leave your thoughts and comments. I'll check them out later. I'm going to move on to the final interview. It's the prepper interview, The Doctor. Now, he used to be a doctor working in Knot City, but he got out of the city with the medical device engineer to care for the people who lived outside of the city. This doctor is played by a guy called Daniel Hagen, an American voice actor. And you can look him up if you so desire. He plays the doctor. This interview was 1 year ago, and it was done in a personal shelter. And he states, I know what you're thinking. Why is this prepper claiming to be a doctor? Don't worry, you're not the first. Rest assured that I really am a doctor. I even have a medical license through the governing body that issued it to me so long gone. So I won't be offended if that counts for little. But license or no, people still need doctors. Preppers get sick too, That's not so hard for you to get your head around, is it? Most folks haul themselves to a city hospital when there's something wrong. But out in the boonies, that's not really an option. But we can't just leave those people to die. You know full well what would follow. And so I do what I can to help around here. I'm the only one people can rely on to keep them alive. Whenever I'm needed, I try to find someone to transport me to a patient's residence. But that's hardly the most efficient approach, and it doesn't endear me to the porters either. I've heard that Bridges is trying to bring everyone into the Cairo network. If it's as good as I've heard it, it would be a real game changer. I could perform all sorts of diagnoses and even some treatments without having to leave my shelter. I hope you manage to extend it here soon. There's a lot of people out there counting on us both. So the doctor, actually a doctor with a license from pre-Death Stranding. I don't know why that wouldn't still hold up. He was concerned about that. The points that I had difficulty in transporting a patient. So does he rely on the porters for transportation if he having to deal with porters? And where were you transporting to? Are hospitals that exist? Did we find out, or do we know? Because I can't remember. And are there hospitals? Anyone have that answer? Because I'm thinking, well, if you have to transport, are you transporting them to a hospital for, how does one have surgery? Um, all the things I need to rediscover. Um, Getting the chiral network up could create easier access to doctors. I suppose that's a bit like WebMD, is it? Where people can go online and self-diagnose. Don't do that, people. Don't do it. I'm gonna have a swig. Excuse me. Don't self-diagnose. Uh, you know, um, but I suppose it's great in one respect to have the the knowledge of certain things that you can do to take care of yourself, how to deal with a cut, what you can put on it, things like that. But when it comes to other stuff that's you have no idea about, our minds go everywhere. We can become hypochondriacs, and WebMD is one of those places people can go. And I have a friend who has a friend who just lives through WebMD. There's like they're a self-confessed hypochondriac, and they laugh at themselves because they're always diagnosing things that they don't have, which is crazy. Um, and that would actually make a kind of a fun TV series, a comedy. I don't know. Think about it. Anybody out there, start writing. So the doctor with the license from pre-death stranding. So I dare say that the concern was whether that counted for little. He wouldn't be offended if it counts for little. I figure, well, you've done your time, you've studied, you became a doctor, you got your license. Yeah, you still have the knowledge. Somebody's gonna need you. So I wouldn't I dare say no one's gonna kick you to the curb. Um, and he's hearing that everyone's that been trying to be brought onto the chiral network is as good as he's heard, and it would be a real game changer if it does happen. And he's thinking about all the things that he could do via that without pretty much having to leave, and to be able to help people. You know, get them on the chiral network, and also a little bit of FaceTime, a little bit of Skype, or something. If you can do a face to face thing, that would be good. If that's part of the chiral network, if we can incorporate that, that would have been a real game changer. And it probably has. Maybe I didn't see it. But and then relying on porters for transportation. What was your thought on this, you guys? What have you got? I can only see them exiting industrial center cities, places like Capital Knot. Imagine the kind of technology in the real world in the hands of doctors that would help quite a lot to deal with many problems. Yeah. Uh, Higgs was also predicting how we can't shake hands during the pandemic, focusing on the lack of social contact, which we suffer from. Yes. I think most people are kept in close proximity to hospitals to avoid void outs. I think there are medical centers in the knots. Thank you. Higgs opened his third eye too wide. Come on, we all use the internet to look up illness and draw conclusions sometimes. I'm not saying we don't do it. Yes, people do it. You just have to be careful about doing it and sending yourself into a spiral. Uh, Guilty as charged. Yes, he used the network to deliver the Mountaineer's child via a robot. So, I think that there's room for all of that, which is great in terms of what we can what's allowed the doctor to be able to do with all of that stuff. So interesting. Um, so there you have it, everyone. That is the prepper interviews. This was episode 7 of Joy to the Word, the Death Stranding edition, the preppers. It's been awesome to be able to do this live because they're seeing your instant reactions and stuff. It's been so cool to have you. Thank you for all your wonderful comments. And I really enjoyed reading. I've enjoyed taking the time to really work through. So I've got, this was 7, 8, 9. So we got 3 more to go, which will also be done live like this as well. So that'll be a lot of fun. And I look forward to seeing you guys again. So the next one is going to be Higgs's journal. And that'll be an interesting one. He's got quite a few. There's 26, I think, in the journal. I believe 26. They're not all, it's not all very long, but they're just excerpts of stuff. So we're going to touch base on that. So we'll get through that quite quickly. It sounds like it'll be a long time, but it probably was not going to be any longer than probably what we've done today. So listen, what I'm just looking at some of your comments. Love the series. Thank you. live is the way to go. It was so awesome to talk with you one-on-one. Thank you, Shane. You guys have been so supportive. Thank you so much. Hope that we have more live streams. Love how you interact with us. Thanks so much for doing these, Tommie. You're a king. Thank you so much. Next one is going to be a blast for sure. Yeah. Thank you for the fantastic series. Absolutely. Thank you guys. You guys have been absolutely brilliant. I'm so glad I could do it. So just remember, we're still leading up to that director's cut, which is coming out on September 24th, 2021. So be ready for that. And one quick question. What did you guys think of the final trailer that came out? Because I thought it was pure fire. It was really, really good. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, so leave some comments on that. I'm glad you guys, I think most people enjoyed the trailer. It was cool. It was really, really cool. So listen, go. Enjoy your day. I'm going to go and enjoy mine. Thank you for joining me. I really, really appreciate your support. And I will see you next time for episode 8 of Joy to the Word, the Death Stranding edition, and that will be Higgs's journal. So go. I'm sending you out with love. Peace out. And remember, you know what it is. Keep on keeping on. All right. So take care, everyone. Lots of love. Peace.